I already got the volume all the way up. Yeah, it's all the way up.
Uh-oh. Muted. Okay, they should. Can y'all hear us now?
Hey, Marks, William, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're all good to go. We're at the point now where we're just ready to re-roll.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Councilmember Deets,
Here.
Commissioner Montgomery,
Here.
Commissioner Hall,
Here.
Commissioner Britnum,
Here.
Commissioner Twitty,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Bowen,
Here.
Chairman Stroud.
Here.
Have everyone present, sir.
All right, we have a quorum, and everybody's had time to look over their minutes for the meeting of November 9th. Are there any corrections, additions need to be made to the minutes and submitted? Make a motion to accept and approve. Okay, got a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Got a second? Second. Got a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, we're moving to item number 4 on the agenda. That will be public hearings. It'll be a rezoning. 1116 West Main Street from a C2 to a C3, used car sales and repair. Petitioner will be Rodolfo Garza. At this particular time, are there any commissioners that need to recuse themselves because they may have ties or anything, any conflicts at this time? Okay, Commissioner Hall, all right. Okay. Okay, make known to Commissioner Hall will be stepped down and we'll be speaking as a citizen at this particular time. Okay, at this time, hearing nobody else, or at this time, I'd just like to open the public hearing. There's so many different people here that I don't know. So what I'm going to ask to do is to ask if all of the fors and against, what we'll do is we'll give everybody an opportunity to speak. But if we start saying the same thing over and over again, then I'll have to cut it short. But we'll try to give as much time as possible for everybody to speak. This time, I'd open the public hearing and have anybody who wants to speak to the issue, go ahead and step up and state your name and yeah, at the podium. Thank you.
My name is Adam, excuse me, Adam Childers. I'll put my mask back up. I just want to introduce myself to everybody. Some of you I have introduced myself to. I'm an attorney representing Sierra Auto Corporation and the Garza family. I did not represent them in the litigation previously that went to the circuit court and came back to y'all, I guess, remanded to hear everything again. So I'm here today on their behalf too, with the Garza family. And if I can proceed, would y'all like me to stand here or sit?
You can stand there.
Stand, okay. Again, we're just asking for, if I could, I'm gonna turn this way so I can see everybody, if that's all right. Zone it from, and I know y'all have heard this before, from zone 2 to zone 3. The Garza family purchased this property for $400,000. I know that y'all are familiar with it. Also have a packet to pass out with some pictures, if I may approach. It's just, and what it is it's showing where the property, obviously, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. And obviously, the building itself, and then the 1106 West Main. And then showing, some other pieces of property that locally that are selling, some car businesses that are also selling. Did anybody else need? And essentially what we're doing is just, we're asking to rezone from C2 to C3, especially at this time. And I'm sure you're all aware, I mean, everybody is we're all in mask here, that COVID has done nothing but damage commercial real estate to a huge extent. I mean, subway chains nationwide aren't paying leases. They've actually halted their payments of lease, and that's the nationwide chain, not franchisees. Excuse me. Like you have a building right now that's sitting empty in the city, utilities are being paid, that was purchased, and that's looking to employ 10 to 15 employees potentially through in the city of Jacksonville. You have tax-paying citizens. You have people that have not only had this piece of property for over a year, they actually went and litigated it because wasn't allowed wasn't allowed from a C2 to C3 last time, and would do the same again. That's how much they want to be in the city of Jacksonville. They are residents of the city of Jacksonville, and they do nothing but want to help the city itself. If there's any issues that anybody, the neighbors have, if there's any issues that anyone in the community has, we're here to address those. We're open. They've hired counsel to address those issues. They've hired counsel to do anything they can to help this. I don't see what there would be, excuse me for a mask be down, I was trying to catch my breath. What issues, if any, that people could have, we're happy to address them, in all honesty. I mean, I'm here on their behalf to say that. I don't think they would have gone to this extent and kept the property up what it is right now in these pictures we're taking today, without them wanting to even improve it further and then hire citizens of the city. And so that's what we're asking for is from a C2 to a C3 for that purpose, especially during this time when everything commercial real estate wise is, you're lucky if people hadn't left. Well, they're not probably paying rent most of the time. At least some of them with the force majeure clause. I mean, they started back up. Everybody started back up paying rent. I can tell you that from firsthand. They started paying rent and then they stopped again. And yes, we do have, it looks like hopefully everything will get better in the next few months, but we're wanting to come in and have been wanting to come in for the past year. And also too, for the neighboring businesses. I know there's also some car lots around the area. If they're worried about any type of competition, in my mind, it doesn't hurt anybody. If you have a legitimate, a good, car business, they're going to bring eyes, and the eyes are going to see other businesses, other locations that potentially, I mean, more foot traffic is good for everybody, in my opinion. But that's what we're here for. And I'm happy to take any questions. I'm happy Ms. Burgess, she was here, I think, before y'all in the past. We're happy to answer any questions that you'll have.
Okay, at this time, is there anybody else we just continue on. Is there anybody else who want to speak to the issue?
I wrote a letter and addressed it to you, and that says what I feel.
Yes, ma'am. We'll get to the against in a little bit. Right now, we've opened it to anybody that wants to speak for this issue.
Oh, boy, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know there's a number of people on Zoom. I don't know if they want to speak up, if they can hear me or not. We'll have to take up
That's
the-
what we're looking for. Anybody who want to speak to this issue at this particular time?
Daniel Gray wants to speak.
All right, Daniel, you want to speak?
You know, I can't see anybody, but I can hear everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, sir. Yes, sir.
I just, I don't know about I know we were there last year and we talked about conditional use. And I'm getting some feedback from somebody, but anyway, every piece of property nearby, the neighboring property received a conditional use for auto sales. I think that's why Mr. Hall recused himself this time. He did not recuse himself previously, but the adjacent property received the same conditional use that the Garzas requested last year and were denied. And there's several other businesses nearby that have received conditional uses. The existing building requires a conditional use for auto repair. Any fast food restaurant requires a conditional use in a C2 for that same purpose. Automatic car wash requires a conditional use for a C2. So I mean, it's Main Street, Jacksonville. We've had auto repair, car washes, wreckers. I mean, that's Main Street, Jacksonville. I think used car lot, a nice used car lot on Main Street would be a great addition to the city. And I think if there's concerns about code enforcement or code issues, I think that can be handled in that proper venue. But as far as allowing the Garzas to operate a used car business on Main Street, I think that's very appropriate. And I think there's been numerous businesses of similar type on Main Street. And I would speak in favor of them receiving a conditional use or a rezoning, but a conditional use seems to make more sense to me. And I'm speaking in favor of the business there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gray. Is there anybody else at this time who want to speak for this issue?
Hello, my name is Barbara Matthews. I'm a representative from the First Presbyterian Church in Jacksonville. And we're right down the street from where that business is going to be.
Okay, can I interrupt you just for a little bit? Are you speaking for this?
No, I'm speaking against it.
Okay, excuse me. We have it open now for people that are speaking for the issue.
Oh, I apologize. I'll wait.
Are there any other?
Yes.
Okay.
My name's John Sukforth. I own John Juice Cars and Trucks here in Jacksonville. I've been here since the early 80s.
Excuse me. Okay, could you restate your name again? We missed it.
John Sukforth.
Simforth?
Sukforth.
Okay.
Okay, I'll find out.
Okay, we've got it recorded. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I've been in business here in Jacksonville since the early 80s. I've had my car lot here. I know these individuals. We do a lot of business. I've known them some of them for over 20 years. They're honest people and they'll do exactly what they're required to do. And I think it'd be a great thing to have it approved. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, anybody?
I think there's someone, Dottie, there with the name Dottie.
Yeah, that looks like John Belton.
Yes, that's John Belden. I'm sorry, I'm using my wife's computer. I'm here to also speak in favor I've worked with these people in the past. They've been honest and they've been fair to deal with. And I'm just I'm just here in favor of this proposal.
Oh, okay, all right. Now remember, this is a rezone. We're not here to actually speak about, people as far as their individuals. We're here to deal with land. So people that are speaking for it, make sure that you help us, because our job here is to, we're talking about rezoning. We're talking about property. Help us with how to, vote in favor or against this. I mean, that's what we have to litigate here. So give us some updates as to why this property needs to go to a C3 from C2. Okay, so anybody else want to speak at this particular time?
I can continue on if you'd like. Obviously, I'm also involved in real estate in the city of Jacksonville, and feel like an empty building doesn't make sense. And I think that anything we can do to continue progress and add good businesses to Jacksonville is a plus for the city. Thank you. That's all.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Anybody else want to speak to the issue at hand? And that is rezone from C2 to C3.
Mark, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I have to share phone calls I've received. And one phone call I received today was from Bob Yagos, and he asked me to pass on that he's in favor of this because it's not a lot of difference between a car repair place and a used car lot. So I'm passing on what I received, and I may talk later because I've got other phone calls. I'm passing it on from Bob Yagos at JB Auto Salvage.
Okay, all right. All right, so let me just clarify that what he said was that there's not much difference between a car repair and car sales. That was his point. Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to write these down. Okay, all right, anybody else speak in favor?
I do, if I could, real quick, I do have a number of list of individuals and businesses, names, addresses, and signatures that are in support of changing the vacant property into, if I could present to the chairman.
Okay.
Vacant property to an actual business. And yeah, if C3 to C2, I know that Mr. Gray said conditional use. If that's more in line with what the commission's looking at as well. I mean, we're just trying to put a business in place where there's nothing right now. That's essentially what we're wanting to do. It's nothing more than pay taxes, employ some people, and sell some cars, and make it look good. And whether that be, like I said, in terms of upsetting any neighbors or anything, we're more than happy to address anything we need to do to have them approach. If they need to call me and me be the intermediary or to get this established, we're happy to do anything we can to appease everybody in the neighborhood. And I think if you look at that, as you're all familiar, if you look at the area, what we're trying to implement there is a vacant lot right now and try to put something nice in there and more than up to code. And so that's what we're trying to do. So I think unless anybody else, I'll take a seat until.
All right. Some of these names here that you presented, I mean, it's not in the area that we're talking about here. Just
I don't think it's
cut off.
I don't think it was anybody.
North First Street that would work. But there's.
Excuse me, Chairman. I don't think that it was exactly just people right in the neighborhood. I think it's just people in the general vicinity. I wouldn't say necessarily street, adjacent streets or anything like that, but just some of the people and some of the businesses within the area that were in favor of taking a vacant area or taking a vacant building, putting something there.
So it's like the people they just have the shipping office. Do we know where they reside at?
Yes. So it's on the same street.
I know it's on Main Street, but are they citizens of Jacksonville even?
It's one of the businesses that's in favor.
I mean, that's a business that's in favor of.
My point is, I just wonder, are they citizens of Jacksonville?
They actually,
for planning petitions like that, that was the only thing that I was.
Whether or not, so does it, I guess, if I could clarify, so it makes a difference whether or not the business is in favor, local business, or
citizens
just the
here in
citizens?
Jacksonville talking, and this was presented like the citizens of Jacksonville. But
Businesses.
you're saying it's just businesses of Jacksonville.
Saying businesses,
Okay,
local
all right.
businesses and citizens. I couldn't speak to whether or not they are actually citizens,
Okay.
but they are down the street
Okay.
from the actual business.
All right, is there anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's Patrick Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. For those who don't know who I am a prior planning commissioner. And whenever this particular petition came before the planning commission previously, I was in support of anything that they wanted to do, whether it be rezone or have a conditional use. And I I attended via Zoom the hearing that we had, and it sounds like everything was just all done wrong to begin with, and I understand why we're here tonight. I'm in support of this because, as the points that have been made, one, Jacksonville cannot afford to say no to another tax collecting entity, another employer, and we certainly cannot afford to have another empty building sitting on Main Street. And as I believe I made a point during the Planning Commission meeting sometime back, I think I heard somebody say a year ago, Harold Gwatney, one of the biggest businesses in this town, got started just right down the street. And I cannot believe that here in the year 2020, we are saying no to a business that was very similar to the business that Harold Gwatney had just a block down the street. And on top of that, for Mr. Hall, who has recused himself, and I'm sure he will speak against this, for Mr. Hall to have his shop right next door selling vehicles, I just think it's unreasonable to say it's okay for Mr. Hall to sell vehicles and for the Garza family, the petitioners here, to not be able to sell vehicles. That building was built, I believe, by the Daughtery family, since they were asked to relocate their Goodyear tire store. That building was built in support of the automotive type business. And as I said before in previous meetings, that building is suited for automotive repair. And if you're going to have cars sitting around waiting to be repaired, then why would we not want to allow for vehicles to be sold there? I can't believe that we're even here yet a year later discussing this, because we should have allowed them a year ago to have their business on Main Street for all the points that I made then and all the points that I'm making tonight. It's being very unreasonable to deny their request. And Jacksonville is not in any position to say no to this and to deny their request. And I'm just appalled at the idea that we think that we are so much in a position to say no to these people and to put them through everything that they've gone through. That's just, it's horrible. Now, I know from having discussed with the petitioner that they were pretty much led to believe by city members. And I'm just going on hearsay for what I'm saying here now. But I know that before they pulled the trigger, figuratively speaking, on this deal to buy this building, that they asked numerous questions of.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, I hope you stop talking just a little bit. And we don't deal in hearsay here, sir. And what we do, and let me just clarify for everybody here. We don't deal with buildings either. We deal with land. So a C2 district, as by ordinance, reads as thus. The C2 district is designed to accommodate regional and community shopping centers to provide for a wide range of essential commercial services. That's C2, where it sits at currently. They're asking to go to a C3, okay? This is what we're here to decide. C3 reads as this. The C3 district is designed to primarily to facilitate commercial development oriented toward persons traveling by automobile. This district is usually located along U.S. state and interstate highways. What I'm asking as chairman is for anybody to speak to the issues of the property itself. Mr.
Well,
Thomas,
Mr. Chairman, before you interrupted me, I was speaking to it, and I think you interrupted me a year ago during a meeting. And this is my time right now. I am speaking for for the city of Jacksonville to approve their request for rezoning or whatever it is that will make this deal. Mr. Gray has sold them this property. And as I said a moment ago, they did their homework before they purchased this property, and they were led to believe that this would be a good deal and would be good for Jacksonville. Now, Mr. Chairman, I rest my point, and you can say all you want to. I'm done.
Thomas, did you just say that they were led to believe that this property was going to be zoned in R3?
They were told that it would work just perfectly fine.
Excuse me, it's a C2 property. Mr. Thomas, you are now going on record and you're telling me that they were sold this property with the expressed idea it was going to be, it's going to be changed to an R3?
R3?
Nobody said that. I'm quite sure of it.
Just said a minute ago.
But why would even Mr. Gray sell them this property if they didn't already know that there was going to be a auto dealership put there?
Point between, if you don't mind, and I know you said that you're not going to listen to hearsay, the rules of evidence applying in this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the case. If they are, then I'm gonna, everything that I want to stay, and I may be a little, it may be repetitive. It's going to be for record keeping purposes, since we're establishing a record in case we need to appeal this again, and to litigate it at circuit court level. I didn't mean to cut you off, and I apologize. What we're trying to do, like I said, is not necessarily, and you can tell me, Chairman, if the C3 isn't appropriate in your opinion, then what about a conditional use?
I'm not leading you to believe it is or isn't appropriate. It's not my job as chairman.
Well, you
what
stated.
I'm trying to do, I was just told a minute ago that it was led to believe that way. So I'm trying to stay on task of saying it is currently a C2.
Right.
And they're asking for C3. Give me reasons to do that, but don't give me conjecture.
And I guess my thing is, if it's, and I know that we've even stated that even Mr. Hall over here has a C2 with conditional use for the same purpose. Is conditional use not appropriate in our case? Is what I'm asking, because you've repetitively stated that C2 to C3, but I'm saying C2 to C3 or C2 with conditional use.
We've already done the C2 that was back in November. Okay, that's what was denied back in November.
No. That's not what was denied. I apologize. I can bring the order out if you want to. What was denied was
the conditional use.
It was what denied. He wanted it to be back in front of you for a legitimate hearing, is what we was asking. So that's what I'm trying to get at. If you're trying to deny the fact that we're asking for a C2 with a conditional use or a C2 to C3, that's what I'm asking.
What you're asking is to just have a rezone to a C3.
No, and I said or a C2 with conditional use, but you have again stated that you're not asking for a C2.
No, it's right here.
Chairman, if I may interrupt quickly, Stephanie Friedman, City Attorney. At the hearing, we discussed the conditional use, and the judge agreed that this should go back to the Planning Commission, but as a request for rezoning. So it's my understanding that this was advertised as a rezoning request, not a rezoning and or conditional use.
And that's coming from Judge Piazza, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I just want to make, and again, I apologize. I'm just trying to make everything. I wasn't here for the last hearing. I wasn't the one that litigated in front of Piazza. I just want to make sure that I get across everything. So I do apologize.
Right. Okay. So we're here on a rezone only, but conditional use is off the board. And that's what Patrick Thomas was talking about, former Commissioner Thomas. And that the reason I was talking and I'm sorry, interrupted Mr. Thomas was because I want to stay on focus and on task so that we keep above board so that this doesn't have to be litigated again. It will be fair and equitable to everybody.
And I guess, and I know that there's some objection. I mean, honestly, we're here again for the second time. I mean, and I know that you had some objections previously. And
I was a commissioner then, not the chairman. I don't have objections as chairman.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. But again, I'm trying to express that we are willing to do anything and everything we can legally to actually have the commission approve. If there's some reason legally that cannot be approved from a C2 to a C3, please tell me. But if it's by vote, I don't understand then what the issue is in terms of taking this piece of property and putting it into good use on a main street. And we're not talking about something, we're talking about the highest expectations that you can think of. We're talking about 10 to 15 employees. We're talking about making this thing appropriate.
Okay, and you've already had, this is the time where we're speaking to the issue. You've already spoke to the issue. We've let you speak to it twice. So right now, I need to finish with anybody else that wants to speak to the issue before we have anybody that speaks against the issue for fairness, okay?
Yes, sir.
Was that fair?
Oh, yes, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so is there anybody else that wants to speak to the issue?
My name is Bob Yeagas. I own JV's Auto Salvage in Jacksonville. Been in business for over 40 years. Central Motors has been a good customer of mine. They contribute a lot of sales to my business, which means sales tax for Jacksonville. I've been in a repair business for a long time.
Excuse me, Mr. Brittany, we can't hear you.
Yates, it's Bob Yates.
Oh, that's Yates?
Mr. Yates, and the mayor already kind of spoke a little for him, but that's Mr. Bob Yates.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, Mr. Yeager, were you the one that the mayor spoke about earlier?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so am I correct to say that you're for the issue?
Yes, I'm for it to be rezoned. I've been in a repair business for over 40 years, and I think that if it goes back to being a repair shop and you start having cars that are broke down, waiting to be repaired, sitting out in front of their business, which is going to happen, you'd be a lot better off having an upscale car lot with nice vehicles sitting there in traffic. People coming by to look at the cars and creating traffic for the rest of the businesses in Jacksonville. I think that at a C2, the only other option for that building is going to be a repair business. And, they've come and gone in there. But you're not going to have the upscale look of a new car lot or upscale used car lot if you put a repair business back in there. You're going to have cars sitting waiting to be repaired, broke down. That's not what we want.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your input. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to the issue?
Go, Ms. Garza does, Chairman.
Say what?
Ms. Garza does.
Okay, all right, Ms. Garza, you want to speak? Okay.
Okay, it's really hard for me to be up here because I've already been up here once. I just kind of want to say that we're here to make this happen, whatever it takes. We're willing to do legally, of course, like he said. I know that you mentioned, that we have to say things that are going to help you make the decision as a commissioners. But I know also I don't know if there's some kind of oath or something that you take when you become a planning commissioner, or if there's something that you agree to, like, I don't know, help the city of Jacksonville or something along those lines. But I just want you to take into consideration that my dad has invested $400,000 into this property. I don't know if my dad can raise up his hands. Papi, las manos, both hands. Can you raise both of your hands up? Those are working hands. He takes apart engines for a living. So this has been, all that money is everything he has. And he's put it into this one building with a dream of having an auto repair facility. And, this is everything he has. And it's really broken my heart and affected me personally just to see how much this has hurt him. Not being able to run the business. Like I said, we're willing to do what it takes. If there's neighbors that have they're opposed to something, we're a Christian run business. We won't interfere with church operating hours. We actually don't work on Sundays. Now we don't do Sundays. So, it's been a year. He's been paying taxes every month. Bills every month, and his yearly taxes on the property, which are not low on a $400,000 property. He's invested everything. And we've been praying, and I've been seeking a lot of from God and just direction. And I know that it's going to be his will be done today, but I just ask that you take into consideration everything he's invested, because it's everything he has. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Garza. All right, do we have anybody else who want to speak for the issue?
John Molina.
Okay, John Molina.
I am a pastor in Pulaski County. We have worked also with the city in Little Rock and different projects and everything for for the church, and it's good for a community to have a combination of buildings for spiritual purposes and also business. That combination of it gives really it blesses the community. So I believe that this is a great opportunity for the community of Jacksonville to have another business that is going to produce an impact. Plus, this family is a Christian family, so their values are really for God, and they're going to be a blessing for the community of Jacksonville.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Do I have anybody else that wants to speak for the issue? Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the hearing to the floors, and then we're going to now speak it. This will be for against. Anybody wants to speak against the issue, and I will read the letters here. I know that you want me to read your letter that I just got. Are you Bobby Burney?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Burney, yes, I remember.
And I do have something to add after listening to all this.
Okay, yes, ma'am, then you can speak. This was a letter sent to me by Ms. Bobby Burney. It said, I would like to go on record as adamantly opposed to the rezoning of the property listed above. With each square foot of asphalt/concrete laid on any property on higher ground than ours, we are flooded when any significant rain falls. We have spent thousands of dollars for remediation of our crawl space and mold contamination of the inside of our home, all because of the increase in water drainage into our property. As this problem becomes worse for us and our neighbors, we have approached the city for some relief to no avail. The only thing they did was dig the ditch deeper in our yards, and it is now most difficult and unsafe to mow. In addition to the flooding problem, we continue to experience increased traffic on this section of North Jeff Davis from the drivers who avoid the James and main intersection and have no respect for the speed limits. The addition of a car lot to this neighborhood can only increase traffic and speeding with no curbs or sidewalks. This will surely endanger the many dog walkers, pedestrians, and school children. Also, this cannot possibly do anything to add to the plan to make Jacksonville a more beautiful and desirable place for newcomers to want to live. I implore you to deny this rezoning. Ms. Burney, you said you wanted to add something?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Is this where I need to speak from? I'm totally unprepared.
Yes, ma'am, you're right there. Right
Didn't
there.
plan to say anything, but I had been under the impression forever that rezoning was between the planning commission and the neighbors. I know where Bob Yeager's shop is. He's not even in the city limits unless he's moved. They're not going to be affected like we are.
Well, we do. It is between us and the neighbors. Yes, ma'am.
And you have a petition of 40-something neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
Our water in our backyard and the front is becoming just as bad. The water is 6 and 8 inches deep. I have a short-legged dog. My dog can't go out to do its business. And I'll ask you, I've been told that you want to concrete clear to Garland. And that will absolutely.
Ms. Burney, just speak to us. Just speak to us.
If they concrete, and this is hearsay, but
Well,
we will be so flooded.
Mrs. Burney, I said, I admonished somebody before about no hearsay, so.
Okay. Well,
Just-
can I,
Just tell what you know.
every bit. And Mr. Whisker, when he was engineer, had the ground built up in order for them to build that building. More water.
Yes, ma'am.
And the neighborhood, everybody in that North Hospital and North Jeff Davis is going to be washed away.
Okay.
I'm sorry they've invested before having something zoned appropriately for what they want to do. But that doesn't mean that they have the right to decrease the value of my property. And it's my understanding, if you do something that decreases my value, then you are liable. I have a friend who collected on that in Sherwood, but I beg you, please do not, it won't just be me. And we've lived there for a long, long time. And each, asphalt down there, asphalt here, concrete there. And even the Presbyterian churches. And I had Mr. Whisker tell me that water wasn't coming on me. Well, he's an engineer, but I'm not so stupid that I don't know that anything above me, the water's coming down on me, not on somebody else.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So I beg you, please don't put more water on us, because we've spent thousands of dollars already and we don't have any money left to do that.
Okay.
So we're suffering too.
All right. Thank you, ma'am, for your time. I appreciate that. Before I go into the next one, I have another letter that was sent to me to read. This is from the, and by the way, the Presbyterian Church are in the minutes from the last meeting also being opposed. And so they sent another letter saying that the session of the First Baptist Presbyterian Church of Jacksonville, Arkansas met yesterday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom and was unanimously opposed to any change in the current zoning ordinances which would negatively impact the church by increasing traffic flow and current noise levels. And for the record, Presbyterian Church is adjacent to the property here. So,
Is there any chance for me to respond to any of these or to ask questions?
No, not yet. I'll give you a chance a little bit further. Okay, is there anybody else here, anybody else want to speak against the issue at hand? And make sure, again, we're dealing with the issue at hand.
I do.
Okay.
Billy Hall, I'm just an adjoining property owner, a concerned citizen. I've already got water problems, and this is not just people's fault, but when Mr. Whisker had them raise up the building, like Ms. Bernie stated, a gully washer rain will run in my front door and out the back door of my place. I've worked on it, but I hadn't got it perfected. It was also flooding the church, Bethel Church behind my building. We worked on that, try to correct that. I'm trying to be quick about this, but I just don't think Main Street, Jacksonville needs another car lot. I've been in conversation with an individual about a restaurant in my building. Something like that, I feel like it'd be a plus. I just don't feel like that we need to rezone to C3, which is a highway business district. That's not even close to me to a highway. There will be more traffic, I feel like, down Hospital. There are kids down there, grandkids and kids. I've got rental property right behind it. They're concerned. They've got grandkids about lights, noise, traffic. School kids walk by there. And also, this does not meet the city's economic development plan. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. We've got other things in mind for Jacksonville that I think would be more in line with what we're trying to do. Thank you.
You mean the land use plan, the comprehensive development plan, but that's what it was whenever I was first on the board, but it's changed to the land use plan. Is that what you?
Well, I think it was Robert Price is the economic.
Yeah, okay. Developer. Okay.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but.
Right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
I appreciate it. All right. Okay. All right. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to the issue? Okay, taking this time, I will.
Chairman Stroud.
Okay, yes.
This is Mayor Johnson, and I've received numerous calls from citizens that are against this, that live on Hospital and Jeff Davis. And only one business, the museum, has allowed me to identify who they are, but they are against it also.
Okay, any reasons given?
Pardon me?
We're trying to help us decide. We know a lot of people are for it, a lot of people against it. Is there any reasons why they're against it that haven't been enumerated?
Oh, no.
All right.
Increased traffic and eye appeal are the two things that have been expressed to me. Thank you.
All right. At this time, also the letter that Ms. Burney had alluded to that we talked about, I'll read into the record. Also, to Chairman Stroud and all the Planning Commission members in regard to the rezoning notice of the property on Main Street, the previous Amoco building and the lot directly behind it on the corner of North Hospital and Garland. This letter is in opposition to changing this property to the C3 designation. The reasons for this opposition are as follows. It gives 4 points. I'll just read them real fast. It'll be part of the record, but it says the negative impact on the neighborhood residential property values, an increase in traffic in residential neighborhood that already has higher than normal traffic flow. He goes on like point B of saying most people test drive their car and like to accelerate, and their residential neighborhood doesn't want to be part of that. If the new owner decides to sell the property, it would be sold as a C3, which he does make a very valid point here. What we're deciding today is that this property is going from a C2 to a C3. It is going to be in perpetuity a C3. So he's making a point here saying that that it will be C3 from now on. It's not like a conditional use. And then he goes on to enumerate that, or goes on to say that for a number of years, Jacksonville has been trying to improve its image and desirability. One wonderful example is our new high school. Another example is the beautiful library. And then this business that's across from the museum and is near to churches and local businesses doesn't enhance the Main Street area. And it's over 41 people that are residents of that neighborhood. So I just want to put that into the record at this particular time also.
That's okay, you can keep that one.
Oh, I can keep that one. Okay. Now, just a point, and you can speak to this also, and I'll give you a chance to speak. But just a point that was made in that letter, it's a very valid point. As commissioners, we are really hesitant to spot zone anything. Spot zoning is actually illegal. So as commissioners, we have to have a very high hurdle to get over moving from one zone to another, especially when it is surrounded by, when it's not touching any of its same zone. You know what I mean by that? In other words, this property is all C2. It's probably through C2, but at the back of it is R. It's residential, touching residential on the back side or the lower side. That's why we have the residents talking. So my contention as a planner, and I would ask you to speak to this too, why isn't this a spot zone? And I would just as just to facilitate discussion, I just want you to, on that, help me as to why this wouldn't be a spot zone.
Well, if I could, just so I don't forget, because I have way too many kids right now. It's Christmas time and there's a lot going on. Just so I can quickly address, I know that the last letter you read, I think was from residents saying that this would be an eyesore essentially. Or they listed off the new Jacksonville High School. They listed off a number of businesses. Why can't this business be one of those? There's improvements to Main Street. I can show you Mr. Hall's business if you want me to pass that around. The one next door that he says is what detriment is business. Mr. Hall, I'm sure you know. And you can see the business that we bought next door. Well, you can tell me.
You references this last letter.
This is Mr.
An eyesore.
That was saying that this would be an eyesore, saying that it lists off Jacksonville High School as one of the positives of the new improvements on Front Street.
Okay.
And I heard Mr. Hall even reference something to the effect about.
I didn't read the whole thing, but what I can say was that what his reference was that this type of business you know, he's talking about the car lot and rather than.
That it'd be like an eyesore essentially is what I was getting at. It's because I think, was there not reference to Jacksonville High School being new and.
Which is not a car lot.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, but I mean, that's what he's referencing is new buildings.
And the
you know?
library, which is not a car lot.
Yes,
Right,
but
so what he's saying, we didn't need another car lot.
is that what they're saying, or are they saying?
Yes.
Why don't we just read the letter?
Okay, so let's see, one wonderful example is the placement of our newly.
No, she just go through the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading, that this section, that part right down there. He said, for a number of years, Jacksonville tried to improve its image and desirability. Wonderful example is this placement of our new high school. Another example, our beautiful library. You must ask yourself if you want a business across the military museum or near two churches, another local business who strive to enhance Main Street.
Strive to enhance Main Street.
True, that's what.
Well,
it says.
no, let me finish. Why is this business not gonna enhance Main Street? You see, you keep getting on this. Mr. Stroud, I know you're in opposition to this. It's obviously from the get-go. I don't understand for the life of me, and I'm serious, I'm talking to you.
Back on, please.
What's that? Oh, so, I'm sorry. And it's hard for me to read in this. I do not understand for the life of me why you're so opposed to this. I mean, we're talking about an actual business that's wanting to employ Jacksonville citizens, that's wanting to pay more taxes to the city of Jacksonville. But yet you come in here, you've been so adamant against it. Please explain to me why you are.
I am not, sir.
Yes, you are. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious.
Excuse me, sir, I'm not.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm laying the facts out.
Are you laying the facts?
This is the fact that I just gave you here.
Because I bet if we rewound this same hearing from a year ago, we'd have the same thing, where you were arguing with someone else about it.
Again, sir, let's just stick with the facts.
Okay, then that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. All right, let's move on to the other part, which was the church's letter. Can we read that again?
Church's letter, yes. Church's letter was the session of the First Presbyterian Church of Jacksonville, Arkansas met yesterday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom and was unanimously opposed to any change in the current zoning ordinances which would negatively impact the church by increasing the traffic flow and current noise level.
So they're opposed to anything that would negatively impact.
We are also concerned about the parking lot area right next to the adjacent lot that's going to be transformed into a parking lot. We have a small parking lot on that side and we don't want customers coming and parking in that small parking lot. And we also have a playground area right there, which would be very susceptible to.
Okay, we will ask for some more against, because I imagine that's what this is about, but continue on.
No, let's go ahead and hear what I guess Matthews had to say.
Okay.
So that I could respond.
Did you want to make your point?
I will after she's done, I guess.
Okay, all right.
I mean, look, I got to get this through the record. So I know you can shrug your shoulders and get upset, but I got to get all this in.
I'm not shrugging my shoulders to get upset. I'm just trying to.
I'm trying to facilitate it for you. So,
but the order was that you had the floor to speak.
You wanted everybody to get done.
This was an
opposition, correct?
I didn't want an interruption.
You want everybody to get done in opposition or no?
I didn't want an interruption to your speech.
I'm trying to let you go to opposition.
Okay, so
finish it, then I'll finish after the opposition stuff.
So I will now finish with those that are opposed, because you had your time to speak for those the rebuttal. Okay?
What's that?
I said I gave you time to speak for rebuttal, and you chose to step back. So now I will finish.
So that Ms. Matthews could get her point across. That being the church.
I'm sorry, I'm Mrs. Matthews from the Presbyterian Church. It's adjacent from the area that is the vacant lot. And we have a small parking lot right there next to it, across the street from it. And we're concerned that customers from the business could possibly park there, because there would be limited parking if it's right there on Main Street anyway. And we do not want, traffic being parked there if they're not going to the church. We also have a small playground there that could possibly be tempting for children if they come with their parents to want to go play on it. And we don't want to have any liabilities if someone gets hurt or something in the playground. So that's another concern that we have right now. We've also had a lot of vandalism to our church in the past year, where we've had to get a security system put in. And, we're trying to make it as safe in that area as possible. So that's our concern.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wants to speak against the issue? Okay. All right, at this time, I will close the public hearing.
We got one response.
I will also say, note that
Chairman, are you gonna not allow me to respond?
I gave you a chance. but
That's
you
okay.
chose-
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll sit back down if you're not going to.
So, okay, let me reopen the make it
Sure.
known that I've been over backwards. We're gonna reopen the public hearing so that Mrs. Garza's lawyer can speak again. You have opportunity to speak.
Ms. Garza is going to speak.
Yeah, like I said, we're willing to do what it takes. You know, I'm honestly so tired about this whole thing. I mean, I don't know what kind of personal agenda is trying to be pushed here, but it's not fair that we're caught in the middle of it, you know? I hate to go against anyone here, but you went and attacked my real estate agent for selling us the property in the first place. So the fact that I even have to come and argue before you just seems so unfair. Last time, Mr. Hall was able to vote against us, who is a neighbor, who has a conflict of interest. Due to his vote, for a year, we have been stuck. We haven't been able to make a penny off of this property. It's just, there's injustice here. It's just unjust.
Actually,
You know.
Mr. Stroud, Chairman Stroud, I'm going to ask that you recuse yourself from this pending the latest, the display of this. I would ask that you recuse yourself at this time from any vote.
Based on what?
And explain to me.
Oh, he doesn't vote?
Explain to
Well, then
me.
I apologize, but typically I'm used to the chairman voting, everybody voting.
Yeah.
But I'll look and see.
I guess it's
I'll sit down.
Okay, so, again, let me just make clear to you, Ms. Garza,
Please.
that I have nothing personal against you. And I adamantly deny that I attacked anybody. That's really kind of an unfair statement that you made. So, that didn't happen. I never attacked anybody, but I did go and talk with somebody. And I'm really kind of perplexed about that because it seems to keep coming back to that person. And I asked, as I was a commissioner before and not the chairman, and I asked you one more time, did you buy this property with the idea that it was going to be rezoned to a C3 prior to it even coming here?
I purchased a property, a beautiful property. We purchased a property, a $400,000 property that used to be an auto repair place that had a conditional use on it. And the property that we purchased, the person next door who owns the building next door, he came and requested conditional use. He was granted it. What is the difference between him and I? He's a white male and he's Mr. Hall's renter. That's the only difference. I'm not finished.
We do not talk about.
No, because this is, no, I am allowed to speak. I am allowed to speak. You cannot interrupt me. You have to allow me to finish.
But we don't degrade people by their
No
race.
one is
We don't
degrading.
talk by their color. We don't not degrade.
You
people
have
by-
degraded us because that is the only difference between him and I. That is the only difference.
He's a male and you're a female.
And yes, and he's a white male and I'm a Hispanic female. That is
To
the
the
difference.
property.
He's a white male. He was granted conditional use and I was not. What is the difference? Why was he able to do that and not me? What is the difference?
Okay, are you-
I would-
Again, are you asking me?
No, I think, okay.
Yeah.
I think at this point, as you can tell, obviously I got involved in this over a year ago. Ms. Garza, obviously, and I apologize to the commission on my behalf. Chairman, I apologize to you. I apologize to Ms. Hall if you thought at any point I was inappropriate. I apologize to everyone. It's obviously it's a very emotional charged situation when you have a first generation, I guess, a citizen, Mr. Garza, who's coming in, his daughter having to speak for him, and life savings has been invested into this piece of property with the anticipation that he's going to be able to be his own boss and be his own and to work as a mechanic himself and to improve this property, to improve this city that he's decided to move to and raise his family. That's why it's so emotionally charged. And obviously, as you can tell, when you have people next door that are doing the exact same thing that we're asking to do, and in the flooding situation, the water situation, we're saying we're willing to do whatever we need to do to not hurt anybody. We're saying we're willing to do everything we can. but yet we still feel like there's blowback. And Chairman Trout, I know that's you trying to facilitate the discussion. So I apologize if it felt like I was attacking you or anything like that individually. I do apologize. But that is what we're doing. We're pleading with y'all to allow us to do the exact same thing that the neighbor is doing, because this man has invested his entire life savings and his kids' future on this piece of property to raise and to start a business in Jacksonville. And that's what it is that's the reason we're asking, and so emotionally charged in this. Okay. And I apologize again.
Okay, and let me just say, just as clearly and succinctly as I possibly can, we as a planning commission deal with property, and the zones are our Bible. We literally have to adhere to those. It was a C3. We didn't buy the property as a C. I mean, it was a C2. We didn't buy the property. We settled. We are settled as it being a C2. Your goal, and I try to say that all the time we start here, you are to convince us why we should go to a C3. I asked you prior, and I still ask you again, because this is a very important point. Because C2 is all around you, the Presbyterian Church and Mr. Hall's side. That is C2. Behind it is a residential area. It's R1 or R1, I believe. That makes this area going to be an island. It's completely circled with only C2 or R. Why would we not be in violation of spot zoning if we allowed this? And I need to have, for the commissioners, I need to have it stated clearly so that we can go that direction. But what I'm hearing is, I promise we will, our buildings are this and things like that. Talk to me about zones. Talk to me about why C3, which is a highway zone, which is it's for heavily trafficked type of businesses. Why is that conducive to there? And let me help you out, because this was last time read by Mr. Price. He's the one that works here. He's the one that spoke to this. He's the one that's in part of developing downtown Jacksonville. And this also weighs on us because we have to work hand in glove with them. Mr. Price stated that he can comment that on what direction the city is going related to this long term. He related that he has comprehensive master plan for the economic development in Jacksonville, which was completed in 2017. He noted the plan was endorsed by the Jacksonville Planning Commission and approved by the City Council. Part of the plan is the rejuvenation of downtown. He goes on to say, he stated that his job is to try to put a plan together to help us have the most rejuvenated downtown we can, and typically that is not C3. So that's I'm imploring you,
right,
and asking you, help me to know, or help us as commissioners to know why we're going to C3. It has nothing to do with personal. It hasn't, and I mean, you invested here, great. I know that, but that's immaterial to what we're trying to do here. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I guess what you just read was that the word that I cued in on was typical. He doesn't typically go to C3. I think if that's the case, if that's the word that I'm centering in on, it's because typically that wouldn't be the case. Typically, we don't have that case though here. When you look at the surrounding adjacent properties, you look at the property that they've purchased, that they've spent their entire life savings on, that particular property isn't going to be, it's going to be like a light on a beacon. It's going to be different than the ones. I mean, we're talking about, it's going to be, looks like the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming at you. It's going to be the end of the tunnel. I mean, we're talking about something that's going to look good, that they've kept up, that's going to look better. That's why, because he used the word typically. This isn't typically your situation. And the reason I honed in on what you said about the Jacksonville City High School, about the library, was because why can't this business itself enhance the value of Main Street? I've heard so much opposition about, that this is going to be a blight on the city's, Main Street. I don't think it is. I mean, you're talking about how this family has fought for a year to try to get this in place. They've sat here and said over and over again that they're willing to do everything they can do, code enforcement, anything. I mean, they've hired me, they've hired another attorney to argue any appeal. I think that should demonstrate that the level that they're willing to come in the actual quality that they're wanting to invest. They've kept up the piece of property. If they didn't care, that piece of property could have sat there for a year with nothing on it. I mean, they could have let weeds grow. They didn't. They kept it up. for an entire year since they purchased it. But that's at least my argument is that this isn't your typical situation, which is what he said there. Typically, you wouldn't go to a C3, which is, and I completely agree with. This isn't your typical situation. I feel this is atypical than what you have right here.
And one step further than that, I just asked just a little bit, answer me this. If the Garza family, 20 years from now doesn't own that property, it's still C3. So what's to stop it from becoming a hotel or becoming a mobile park,
right,
mobile home park?
Again, and you're asking me, I'm not going to be able to answer that question because I wouldn't be able to know what the city of Jacksonville is going to do in terms of zoning situations.
No, it's what the property. See, my point is
right,
that if we let this go to a C3 in perpetuity,
right,
it'll be C3. That's why I had stated, and if you read the minutes before, and I told Ms. Garza before, it was zoned. I mean, it came to us as a rezone initially, and as we were debating in the whether or not to go for conditional use, that was my point. If the conditional use is granted because of conditional use, which was given to Mr. Hall and all the other businesses, conditional uses are given because they're tied to the individual. They're a lighter footprint than a C3 zone. I mean, than a rezone.
Right.
A rezone's in perpetuity. So what we're asking here is a much higher threshold than what we did with the conditional use. So I'm asking you,
right,
then, other than what we had heard before, what can you give us that tells us that this will always and ever forever be? How can you tell us this will always be a car lot if we go with the C3?
I mean, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. I don't do that to clients that I come across. I'm not going to just sit here and say, I promise you today and put my hand on the Bible. I mean, because I don't know that. That would be up to the family. We can have the family come up here and tell you that. And I think that they'd be willing to tell you that they've moved to the city of Jacksonville. They've raised children here.
Yeah, thank you for being honest.
And all that. But I do think you look at the piece of property and you said a hotel, a mobile home park. I don't know if that fit on the piece of property that we're speaking of. And I can tell you that obviously I think they came here before I came before you and they asked for conditional use, but that was thrown out the window, I think, by the judge.
Yes.
And so I think that would have obviously was originally what was being sought was the same thing that the neighbors were looking for. And so that's the only reason is the court told us that we couldn't have the conditional use. If my understanding is right, I think that's what Ms. Friedman had alluded to earlier. So it wasn't necessarily that we're seeking the C3. It's that that's the only option that I think we have, or that y'all have that we have in front of you, is that, unless I'm mistaken.
No, you're right,
okay,
because once the conditional use was turned down here,
right,
it was denied. And that part wasn't disputed by Piazza at all. I was on the ruling, I listened to her. So that wasn't denied at all. It was just a rehearing because he said initially it came as a rezone, so now it has to come back as a rezone.
Okay.
That's why it's here before it's rezone.
Yeah, and that would be my answer is that we, I obviously would hear, but we obviously would have preferred a conditional use just like everyone else. We're not trying to seek out any special favors or anything like that. It's just that that's the only thing that we could ask for.
Well, we can't hear it as a conditional use now until November of 2021.
Okay.
So once it's denied, it has to set aside for 1 year. So with that said, is there anything
Been
else?
over a year.
I've been fair.
No, it's been.
Huh?
It's been over a year.
Been over a year.
Chairman Stroud, may I speak again?
Oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Well,
So
November.
can we,
It was November
19? Does that mean that we can seek a conditional use?
Yeah,
this
so
time?
you could.
Not tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tonight.
yeah, please not.
Y'all don't want me to,
Please
y'all don't
don't.
want to hear me ramble anymore?
No, it has to be advertised.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're not advertised,
Okay.
so that's what happened once before with this item.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, sure enough, 2019. Okay, Daniel. Okay, all right, Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I just appreciate that. I just, when I listen to some of the concerns from the citizens, I hear what they're saying, but no matter what type of business is in there, if it's an auto repair shop, or even if it's just a dentist office, those same issues are going to be prevalent for water drainage issues. I mean, I think the city engineer department, I think the street department needs to be addressing those issues regardless of what business is in there. And I think, Main Street is zoned commercial, whether it's C2 with a conditional use or C2 regular. So I think those issues need to be addressed immediately from a city standpoint. And I support those citizens or those residents and having those concerns met. I understand their concerns, but at the same time, we've got to allow businesses to operate on Main Street, and we need to figure that out. And everyone was aware of the current zoning, and everyone was aware of what was allowed under the current zoning in the contract. There were multiple offers, and unfortunately, we're where we are today. I assume that Jacksonville is pro-business, and we want as many people operating and employed in the city as possible. And it's not anybody else's right to tell somebody what kind of business they can operate. Thank you.
Okay, all right. That was 4, by the way. All right, is there anybody else who wants to speak against the issue? Anybody else to speak for the issue? Okay, I close the public hearing at this time, and commissioners, it's time for us to have.
I would let Stephanie and ask her if she has anything to say.
Oh, it's time for us to have discussion. Stephanie, do you have any input for us at this particular point?
Actually, I was going to kind of chime in when Adam was speaking, but I didn't want to interrupt anyone. I just wanted to clarify that if I'm understanding you, Chairman, we're actually looking for an exception to why the spot zoning would make sense. Because as a city, we almost have to justify doing a spot zoning. The Arkansas Supreme Court has made it pretty clear that they don't agree with spot zoning. So I think as a city, we're kind of looking for that justification of why this would make sense in that case. That's what I was kind of listening for earlier.
And that's why the question was asked. And again, I gave as much time as I could for anybody to answer that question. I want to make that clear.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that up. All right, commissioners, is there any discussion of where we're at?
Mark, I just want to make sure that I'm still on.
Yep, you're on, William.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, I'd like to ask Jimmy, with the city, has there been any kind of flooding issues? Have they addressed it? I'm assuming they've talked about it. It sounds like everybody's been kind of involved in the last few years. Any updates? Is anything in the future planning to try to alleviate some of that?
We have addressed some flooding on Jeff Davis, I believe in front of this lady's house. We improved the drainage.
All you did was dig the ditch deeper.
And put larger pipes, but there may be still issues.
We can no longer mow the ditches safely.
That is correct. It is very hard to maintain with the larger drainage ditches on Jeff Davis.
We even offered to put in culverts ourselves so we could safely mow the yard, and we were denied.
That's correct.
Denied by the city?
Yeah, you had denied by the city. You got to have curb and gutter. It's a non-curb and gutter street. Right. And to put and fill in the ditches. The water from the yards will not have a place to go. Right. And we couldn't allow that. I am familiar with Mr. Hall's property. He's called me out there in years past to show me the drainage issues in behind the church. There has been drainage issues there for many years. Some of it is inside the property itself. The property owners have to get it to the roadways before we can address it. We don't go into private property and deal with drainage issues. You get it to the road, and that's what we try to do, improving that along the roadway on Jeff Davis. So, okay.
So you did it all on one side.
All right, commissioners, is there anybody else? Commissioners have any other discussion?
Mind if I ask one question, Karen? I promise you, I was going to ask, and this is more of a, will we still be able to come back and ask for conditional use after advertising if denied today, or you know? I guess that's my question.
This has gone to court. I think we need to ask Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie, question is asked, can they come back after this and ask for a conditional use?
I will have to check the ordinance. I know they have a 12-month waiting period for each request. I'm not sure if that covers both requests for conditional use and rezoning. I believe it's 12 months for each request. So they would have to wait 12 months to ask for a rezoning. But because of the 12 months has already passed for the conditional use, from my understanding, they can request that again.
So it sounds like you guys.
I was going to ask, so does that, Stephanie, if you can hear me?
Yes.
So if we were denied, I could turn around and then advertise and request for rezoning with conditional use?
No.
Or I'd have to wait a year from now.
Not rezoning.
Excuse me, just conditional use. I apologize.
Then they're
Yes.
done.
Okay, so I could, okay. All right, thank you.
Right, because I think as a citizen.
And
you
I
always-
appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from commissioners? Comments? Thoughts? Ideas?
I just don't like putting a C3 in the middle of everything else that's C2. I wish some of the C2s weren't as conditional as they are.
And I agree with that. I mean, and the reason why is because when you go to a C3, and I think it was mentioned earlier, you change that whole landscape. I mean, it takes it to a different level, because if it's a C3, then who's to say that somebody would come in 3, 5, 7 years from now, whatever, 10, 15 years now, and put in another C3 project. And so, and then you're changing that whole landscape there on Main Street. I mean, I understand what they're saying in regards to this.
If I could, I'd like to withdraw our request at this point then.
Say what now?
I'd like to withdraw our C3.
Okay.
If possible. Just for technicality purposes, I don't want to mess anything up in case we come back with a conditional use. I know Stephanie said she was clear about it, but I just would rather be safe than sorry, if that's okay with Chairman. And I apologize. I owe y'all dinner, so I completely apologize. I just protect for our own benefits.
I mean, you see where we're going. I mean, it's
Absolutely,
C3,
and I completely understand.
To that area there.
And I wasn't aware about whether or not this would be, if we could come back with a conditional use. Just for technicality purposes, I would ask that to withdraw it, just so that we could come back with an advertisement for the conditional use, not rezoning. If that might, help our cause. And I apologize, adamantly apologize.
Again, that's what we do. We try to facilitate. And I thank you very much for your honesty and your.
And again, I completely apologize for.
Okay. Then what we'll need a motion. No, we don't need a motion if they withdraw, right?
If they withdraw, we don't need anything.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay. They're asking to withdraw the rezoning of 1106 West Main Street from a C2 to a C3. Is that appropriate for them to do that? And then we just adjourn and then they come back for a conditional use?
That works for me.
And I apologize, Stephanie, again, and everyone else on Zoom for this long commission meeting.
Okay. Well,
all right, Mr. Chairman, and regards to family, I want to tell y'all, we do want Jacksonville to move forward, and we do want businesses. We just have a hard time changing requests to putting C3s and C2s, and I'm in real estate, so I feel y'all's pain. And I will tell you, I've had to have 3 or 4 requests done. And, when we brought them before them and the requests were reasonable, they were all listened to and they were all approved. So once again, the public that is in that area responded to the petition. And I'm going to tell you, my phone, and the lady back there was one of them, but I had a whole bunch of people that wore my phone out. And when the people of town of Jacksonville get up in an uproar, and you have 50 petitions signed for it. So then we've got to really look at that also, because I know y'all would love to have new business there, new citizens. Don't get me wrong, but we also have to protect the businesses that's been here and all the citizens that are here now. Because I know a lot of the people that called me have been here since a long time, like me in the early 70s. So, yeah, I haven't been here since 1970, but I'm telling you, that's what the public hearings are about. And that's why, we have the opinions that we do, and we try to get everything out and to make a decision that's right for everybody. And, I don't know what this decision would have been. I know what I would have had to vote on the C3, but I think I'm good with them doing a resignation and requesting it to be.
And I apologize, and I do thank you, man, for coming. I thank all y'all for listening to us, so we did this.
May I ask a question? If conditional use is granted, does that mean we still get all the water?
Okay. Now, okay, that's a good point. I'll explain that. If we as a city planning commission grant a conditional use, it has conditions on it. Number one condition is that whatever we grant, like going from a C2 to a C3, is tied to the individual that we gave that condition to. That's the main one. But then after that, we can put stipulations on it. Via you're talking about don't want the green space that's covered up with concrete. We could make that. That's what you as citizens can come and help us when you give input, because that is very valid input. For you having flooding water and us put more asphalt would be against you. And we don't want to, I've always said this, R1 is our most prized possession in the city. We do not want to disturb R1. And you're a residential R1. You're important to us. So we don't want to flood you out. So that would be a stipulation and things like that. So that's why conditional uses are a lighter footprint of what we're going for. And I said that initially whenever this was here the first time. So with that all said, yeah, it's probably better, but we'll probably see this again, okay?
Chairman Stroud, may I say something? I did find the Jacksonville Municipal Code. It's 189220, and it does not distinguish a request for a rezone or conditional use. So regardless of the request, you have to wait 12 months before submitting another request. So their withdrawal for this petition is appropriate here if they're intending on requesting another conditional use.
All right, so this all agreed that's
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right, so
you have something?
Oh, Dan, yeah.
I just want to say that this is a very emotional issue. It's one of those situations you get into where you're in a lose-lose.
Right.
And personally, I feel better about the withdrawal.
I do too. I do. And again,
because it takes the C3 out of the picture.
Yes.
And I like to second what Dan said also. I mean, this is an emotional issue on both sides. And one thing I want to point out to Ms. Garza, I want you to, to trust us and believe us when we say, I mean, this board does not discriminate on anything. And I know you're emotional and I understand that, but we would never do that based on anything, whether a person's age, race, ethnicity, religion, anything.
I wouldn't be here otherwise.
And so the board is diverse, and we listen to both sides and try to make the decision, but you have to make it fit. It's not an open range where you can, and this city is not just starting out, it's been here for, many decades. And so you have to make everything fit, and it doesn't always fit that way, unfortunately.
And one last point, because of why I started off the way I did, the reason planning commissions are here and we were given the police powers to do what we're doing tonight, litigate, although we're not a legislature, is because if indeed there wasn't an entity to protect the citizens, then what could happen would be the highest bidder would buy a parcel of land and put whatever they want to on it. It would become the good old boy network. And we don't play that here. It was said before that, are we against business? No, we're not. We're definitely not against business.
Not at all.
But what we're for is business with good governance. And this is good governance that went on tonight. And I think you'll agree, why we heard everything and logically worked it out. So this is what good governance and looking for good business goes for. So that's your call to come back next time and we'll know exactly where to go from there. So
I thank you all too, again, and I apologize if it was emotionally charged, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, passion, we just all have passion. All right, if there's no other further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Yep, motion adjourned.